Sorry, this is just me injury list. So I don't mess up. Right, my injuries are, before we even start then, let's get them out of the way. Liam Cooper, Stuart Dallas, Tyler Adams and Louis Sinicera. That's not bad, just 4. Right, off we go.
Sam, you used the word hope off the back of the Manchester City defeat. Yeah. What was it you saw about that performance specifically in the second half? How do you go about converting that into wins now?
I think I saw a fight, a determination, and then the ability to improve the performance overall compared to what they produced in the first 45 minutes. And I think that having conceded 20 goals in the last however many games, I thought keeping Man City down to 2 was, in the end, not too bad. In giving that, we all know they missed a chance or two, but everybody does that, so of course. But I think that we scored a goal. We looked better in the second half, and a bit of work with attacking and defending and attacking with the players this week hopefully improves their level of performance to get to a higher standard on Saturday. Notwithstanding that, need some rest and recovery in between, of course, and pick a side and play against the Newcastle side that play a completely different way to Manchester City. So we have to work out how to defend against their strengths and try to exploit their weaknesses.
You've had a full week with the players, Sam. You mentioned Liam Cooper there, wasn't involved against Manchester City. Is he close, Sam, or what's the...
I think so. Next week, like you mean, I think that we've got to try to keep everybody fit if we possibly can. I think the squad in general at Leeds is a bit light in terms of numbers, so we have to be very protective of not picking up too many injuries, otherwise it does deplete the squad. And of course, what's even more important today than ever is having 5 quality subs, as best quality subs you could possibly get, because you need to use them when you need to. You need to make the decision to use them, which has put a hell of a lot more pressure on coaches or managers to make the right decisions in terms of substitutes when you've got 5. And of course that will bring its own criticism on whether you've made the right choices or not. I thought we did okay with our choices last week, because we seemed to, as we made more substitutes, didn't waver and improve somewhat, and fresh legs and a bit more spirit and a bit more quality.
There's been a lot of water under a bridge since then, Sam, but I just wonder, is there any personal edge or motivation from you, given that it's Newcastle on Saturday? Does that even come into it?
No.
There's also been some observations.
It's a long time ago. Yeah. 2007 is a long time ago. Was I disappointed? Yes. What did it do to my career? Massive knockback. But as always, I always recover and move on. So it was an opportunity that in the end I couldn't avoid a change of ownership that was unexpected. I have no criticism of Mike. It's his club. He wanted to do what he wanted to do with it at that particular time. I made no choices. For me, it was a blow to my career at that particular time, because I wanted to take Newcastle as far as I possibly could, and like it's doing now. That was the ambition of me and Freddie Shepherd at the time, but that wasn't to be.
There's also been some observations from other Premier League managers about what's been described as time-wasting tactics by
Who
Newcastle.
doesn't do it?
Well, on that point, yeah, obviously.
Who complained?
Yeah, well, there's been Jurgen Klopp and Mikel Arteta.
He time wastes.
Eric Ten Hag, yeah.
He time wastes.
Correct, yeah.
They all time wastes when they're going to last 5 minutes and they're winning 2-1. Don't be daft. Rubbish, that is. Rubbish.
Is that an observation you picked up on, and how do you try and keep that intensity?
Well, I mean, we've all been talking about ball in play more than we've talked about time wasting, or whether ball in play is or can be improved. But the game is ferocious and quick enough as it is. You know, players' fatigue and players' injuries and players' resources are strained more than ever before. So if you speed the game up even more and you increase the level of time they're on the pitch even more in running out, you're going to get more and more injuries and more crippling injuries than you've ever got, because it's never been as quick as it is now. And with it being so quick, recovery time becomes of the essence, and then because there's so many games there is no recovery time. Because there's no recovery time, you get more and more injuries, and then you ultimately end up getting more and more chronic injuries, which may limit a player's career to a lot shorter than it should be. But we can't do anything about that, because the players ask for so much money. We have to try and increase our profits and increase our turnover every year to fund the players that are so expensive to bring into Premier League football now.
Hi Sam, how do you deal with Newcastle United compared to Manchester City?
Different way of playing, and managing how they play, and the players obviously looking at how they play, and obviously trying to remember when they go out in the field what the strengths of Newcastle are to nullify them, and what their weaknesses are to try and obviously get a goal to score against them. So they play completely differently to Manchester City.
In the circumstance that you're in and that they're in, how big is the challenge for you to be offensive at home but also have that defensive resilience, bearing in mind it's going to be a bear?
Well, you know, they've got some talented players on the front three, haven't they? Like, I mean, there's more to come on. Almiron and Maxima, as well as, you know, the three up front they started with against Arsenal, like, I mean. So, big goal scorer in Wilson, which we have to manage. But then at the other end, you can get in behind and you can get down the side of Newcastle if you can break through midfield, like, I mean. So depends on our quality then when we get to the final third, and what we decide to do with that final ball. If we don't get the ball right, we won't create as many chances as we'd like. To put Newcastle under pressure and to hopefully have something to go forward with, because I'd like to score the first goal if possible. That's very important for us on Saturday. Getting the first goal would be, you know, a big lift. Not saying it would help us win the game. Not saying we would win the game, but, you know, go a goal down would be a very difficult job, I think, mentally for the players to come back from. But if that's the case, they'd have to try and do it. What they won't have to do is go daft like they have done before and leave the back door open and concede 2, 3 and 4 again.
Sam, the results weren't great after the weekend for Leeds. So how big a job was it for you on that mental side you talked about last week to go in there this week and lift them again ahead of this weekend?
But we would still have to win some games. You know, whether they won or whether they lost, we'd still have to win some games. We still have to win some games to stay up. We won't stay up with 30 points. You know, nobody's ever going to do it. Nobody ever wins. We've got 9 points to go for. We know if we get 9 points, which is a massive ask, we'll stay up. If we get 6, we might do. If we get 5, well, we can't get 5. Yeah, we can get 5. Yeah. So, you know, what is it? What are we going to be? I have to say this at this moment in time. I want to be still in it when we play Tottenham. That's what I want to be. You know, I'll be very satisfied if when we play Tottenham we're still in it.
And just finally, Sam Greenwood, how impressed have you been with him? Has he done enough for you to suggest that he might be able to be involved this weekend?
Everybody's trained for us to do enough. We'll make a couple of changes based on what the Newcastle team is, and how we want to play against Newcastle. So we'll make a couple of changes, which you'll find out about when the team sheet goes in. Oh, it don't go in anymore, does it? Gets electronically flipped on now, doesn't it? You know, well, but that and the barcode gets on my nerves. But never mind.
Sam, you touched on Newcastle. How far could you have taken them, given longer in the job?
Oh, it's a speculation that's not worth talking about anymore. Like, I mean, you had a big enough headline off me last week, you're not going to get any more. So, I mean, it was I needed to divert. By the way, all those who criticised me about that light sounded a bit thick, didn't they? When all I was doing was diversifying off the players onto myself, which was a great tactic I picked up off Alex Ferguson, you know. So there was no pressure on the players because I took it all. I took all the stick and all the, look at him, listen to him. But there we go. There's none of that this week. It's purely and simply focusing on Newcastle, you know, and trying to get the 3 points that we desperately need. But I have said to the players, and I'll say it now, when we come off the field on Saturday, we can't afford to lose. We must get something.
For you personally, what will it be like stepping out at Elland Road as Leeds manager for the first time?
Loved playing here when as the away team. Loved the atmosphere. Came as a manager and the same, and the historical nature of the club, and that it's, yes, it might be an old stadium, but it's Elland Road, what it stands for. You know, the old days when I was growing up watching that team. I was speaking to Eddie today at great length. He's got a lot of his grandsons and here in the academy, but he was looking really fit. I was wondering if he could put his boots on and play, like, I mean, because he's the fittest 75-year-old I've seen for a long time, like, I mean, but he's still around the club, still comes into the club and loves it that much. But yeah, it's a great football club.
Sam, a few of the under-21s, like Archie Gray, have been close to it this season. Would it be unfair at this stage to put them in, given the stakes?
Well, it's a big decision, isn't it? Like, I mean, I don't mind making big decisions, but you know, whether it's the right decision, we have to calculate whether that's right. Whether the young lad he's got the ability and got the skill. It's whether we think he could handle the occasion, you know, because this is not and this is a cauldron for us to go in and be able to perform at the highest level we can, with the pressure that we've put on ourselves under by the position that we're in. So I suppose you could get a youngster that goes in and doesn't have that amount of stress because he just wants to go in and play football and can play with a bit of freedom, or he could freeze quite easily. But in saying that, there's many other players, young or old, could do that on Saturday. What I'm hoping for is good mental resilience that allows them to perform at their highest quality. The fear needs to drive them on. The fear of relegation, the fear of losing their Premier League status, it should make them hopefully fight hard for their status and their position at Leeds United.
Given what you knew of some of the players previously from managing against them, have any of them surprised you with working with them? Have you surprised them?
I am very pleased with the attitude of the players. I think what is or did surprise me is that the fact that they have to lift up their energy levels that little bit more to compete at the highest level, because I think that when you're hammered as much as they've been hammered, all of a sudden we call it the lead boots come on, and that we have to lift the lead boots off and put the lightweight boots back on and get running around as much as we possibly can, because without the stamina, the physical effort, the runs, the high speed runs, with intelligence, you'll get nowhere in this game, because the only reason you stop playing football is you can't run anymore. So when you can't run anymore, you can't play professional football. So we need the highest level of stamina and speed and high intensity running, obviously with intelligence and in the right area. And then we need the right amount of skill and delivery and understanding to come together to create opportunities against Newcastle.
Hey Sam, we know you've got very, very little time in this job, so how beneficial has been a full, clear week to prepare for this game, and what have you achieved?
Oh, I think it's been helpful. Yeah, I suppose when I looked at it and thought Man City, Newcastle, West Ham, Tottenham, you know, that's not going to be easy, but at least it had 1 week free every week to try and help and try and get better and better as each game comes around. The biggest thing that can happen to us is tomorrow is not lose, because at least we get a point on the board. If we've got 3, then I'm 40-50% thinking we could stay safe now.
Patrick was somebody you mentioned last week, had a thankless task, didn't he, at the Etihad? It's always a tough job when you're in that kind of system. Rodrigo comes on and scores the goal. How do you approach that situation with those two vying for what we think is one spot?
Well, there's nothing wrong with the system, it's just the players that play in it. So the system's when you're attacking your 4-3-3, when you're in your 4-5-1. So, you know, it's not the system that breaks down, it's the players within the system and their inability or technical inability not to make it work as an attacking force. So, you know, it's what most clubs play these days.
Sam, given you say it's a game you can't afford to lose, do you think?
Well, it won't be over if it's over, but no. I mean that would mean that we're going to 2 games and need 2 wins. If we are to, even then that might not be enough. You know what I mean? But to give ourselves the best chance, we've got to try and get a point on the board, but more importantly 3 if we can.
But to give yourself that chance, and with Newcastle's attacking talent, does that mean a clean sheet?
Every game means a clean sheet. I mean, the negative rubbish around clean sheets is bizarre for me, because every successful club is the best clean sheet record, the best defensive record. I just had that conversation with Eddie Gray today, and he said there's only one way you get out of it, Sam, like we did at Leeds when we didn't play so well. We made sure we got a clean sheet. So if you don't listen to me, listen to Eddie Gray. So, and if you don't listen to me, listen to Pep. And if you don't listen to me, listen to Alex Ferguson, because we all go on about they all win the league with the best clean sheet record.
And given the way the first week's shaped up and the opponents you had last Saturday, has it almost been a bit of a recce this first week to just get to know what you've got available a bit better?
Well, it's balanced with the 3 lads, our 3 lads that come in with me, and I think that and the rest of the staff. It's balance about we've got all this stuff, and we've got to break this stuff down to a small amount in each area to deliver to the players, because we can't overload them. You know what I mean? There's that old saying. There's enough information, and then there's too much information, and then there's not enough information. So we got in the middle bit of that, just enough information. I mean, we could spend hours on the training ground saying you got to do this here and got to do that there and move up the pitch, do this and do that. What we got to try and do is break it into a lot of individual stuff on the screen, a lot of unit stuff, and then a lot of stuff on the pitch because of fatigue. And I get sports scientists shouting at me saying it's overloaded, slow down. So you know what I mean? So you got to be aware of everything, because the last thing we want to do is leave our strength on the training ground. So, but then there's a coach, you want to get through some certain things. So hopefully we've balanced that off very well this week to produce a much better performance than last week against City.
Is it better, Sam, at this stage to spell it out to the players, better for them mentally to say things like you cannot lose on Saturday, as opposed to, I guess, beating around the bush?
Well, they know themselves, don't they? I mean, their Premier League status is in jeopardy. You know what I mean? So, the club worked so hard to get here. You know what I mean? And it's always the first 2 years are always the hardest. In fact, contrary to what everybody says, year 1's harder than year 2. But then when year 3 comes around, it's probably, I don't know what the percentage is now, but when I first started in the early 2000s with Bolton, we did those percentages and said we get to year 3, then your chance of not getting relegated increases by another 25%. And then you go on to like West Ham, I did, just kept them in the Premier League for, 3 seasons. Now look where they are. Bolton 10 seasons before I left, and then they crumbled. So, you know, you can build, if you get past year 1 and 2, you can then build for the future, and a long-term future if you get that right. So we've got to try and survive this year.
Do you think there's any prospect?
Well, this is year 3, isn't it? Yeah, sorry about that. Mate, slipped up there.
Do you think there's any prospect of you having Tyler Adams back for any of these games?
No.
He strikes you as the sort
No,
of player
not at
who'd be
all.
good for
Not that I believe, no. Sadly.